I have two wonderful guests here with me in the studio, and we're going to be taking a look at issues bordering our country. We're talking about the VAT role between the states and of the federal government, the matters at stake, the issues at stake. With me here in the studio, I have a political analyst, public affairs commentator. Join me to welcome Bashir Kadri. Welcome to TMI Sunday's edition.
It's my pleasure to be here, Wilson. I want to thank God for the life of this station and to thank God for the initiator and the investor. And of course, the man who has made a difference in humanity. Our prayers that God will keep him strong, protect him, continue to give him the wisdom and make him agile to deliver in the mandate God has given to him. Usually, great men are always having so many history around them, but I think he has so much good history around him. And I pray that this station will thrive to make those good stories about him more popular to the world.
I say a big amen to that.
The international community also appreciate him. Our country appreciate him. And our people in Edo appreciate him. So our prayer is that he will be a good mentor for the many generations yet unborn.
Right.
God bless him.
Yeah, amen to that. And of course, I have a barrister. Oh, starts to call him Esquire. Your Deji Ogedegbe Esquire. Welcome to TMI Sunday's edition.
Good morning, Wilson.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, viewers. Like we all know, this is the period our father, Sama of the universe, celebrates his birthday. This is his 87th birthday, and we are grateful to God for making him come from this clime, especially from Edo State. Though he says he's from Okada, but I think if you trace history, you will discover that it's from Afuzi.
Seriously?
I want to thank God that he created this station, and that has made it possible for some of us to come and air our opinions here. But the good Lord who has sustained him thus far continue to be his God.
Amen to that. A big amen to that. As he's talking about the Isama of Benin at 87, before diving into our topic for discussion, many of the opinion that this man is a colossus, he's an icon because he has touched nooks and crannies of the world, giving employment to many persons, and he's yet to do more. I mean, take a look at his achievements so far at 87. What do you have to say about it? And if you really want to project into the future, what do you think you should do to make Edo State more compact, more important?
Well, Wilson, there's so much talk about the Isama of Benin Kingdom. There's so much talk about him. And one of the things that caught my attention is his love for education. You know, education is the key to human development. It's not a choice we have. Now, the human resource of a country is the benchmark of that country's success story in the future. What he has done to establish a university, to establish the secondary school, to establish the nursery, to establish primary school, for me, is the biggest legacy anybody can bequeath to the generation, to this country. Those schools are not only servicing people of Edo State, but the entire country. And even, I'm sure, across the globe. So he has left he's having a landmark history. Our history will record him in gold letters. For him to have decided to say, let me venture into education. He didn't go like others who were going to be cosmetic, to look at me, the me. Anyone who invests in education, it's not talking about the me, it's talking about the we and our future. And today we are talking about development. Where does it come from? It's through education. When people are properly educated, the future is great. Nigerian unity today is a function of people, of elites, and a function of education. So the more people are educated, the more unity, the more peace our country will get. Today we hear the trouble in the Northeast and all of that. Those troubles are functional statements from the point of illiteracy. a lot of those young men that are engaged by these funny characters are not informed. So they do not understand why they should not do what they are doing. They do not even understand what it means to talk about patriotism. But he has created an avenue to change the psyche, to change the perception, to rejig our country, so that our country will have a better drive. So for me, anybody who invests in education, he has done the best investment for humanity. And he's supposed to be celebrated across the globe.
Across the globe.
Across the globe.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that by now, as we're talking, some people overseas who went through the Benedict University should be celebrating him now. Those of them who went through the primary school and became class today, celebrate him now. I'm sure none of them, that place came 20 years ago or more than 20 years ago now. So people who went through there would have also be graduates and become entrepreneurs and great men. So I think anybody that went through that system, whether he went directly or his children went through that school or his brother went through that school or his cousin went through that school, should be celebrating the Isama of Benin Kingdom for giving opportunity for the children to harness and become class and world class.
And world class.
And world class.
You're talking about the primary school, the secondary school, the tertiary institution,
exactly.
A hospital, of course, the media
exactly,
house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these are functional impact. And of course, the media house, today in Edo, and I'm sure in this sub-region,
South.
in the South, ITV is the best. Not because I come here regularly. I also go to other stations. Other stations invite me for a talk, discussion. But I must tell you, those who are not here have not gone anywhere yet. Yeah. And I hear every day people talk about ITV, even outside here. So when you are going to do any exploit, going to get people to follow you in whatever you want to do, inform the people, educate the people, then ITV is subject matter.
Okay.
So why are we not celebrating that man? So for me, everybody that have had reason to have contact with these institutions that this man created should be able to celebrate him and thank God for giving to humanity.
Thank you so much, Bashir Kadri. Well, Ayude Ogedegbe Esquire, taking a look at the lofty achievements of the Isama. I mean, what do you have to say about it?
I do not agree more with what my elder, Mr. Kadiri, has just said. I grew up to know or begin to hear about His Excellency Dr. Osawaru Gabriel Benedict with the brand Okada Dry.
Okada Dry.
It was a drink we all loved in those days in the 70s.
That's Canada Dry.
Canada Dry.
Canada Dry.
Yes. Canada Dry.
Canada Dry. Okada Dry. I think
Okada Wonderland.
I think they were in varieties.
Yeah.
That was the one Okada Dry. I loved it in those days. Outside Okada Dry, it was the first to establish an airline, Okada Air.
Yeah.
In fact, the Hino Motors, we used to see those big bikes of those days too. Close to where 7up was at Saple Road, where you now have the Kilimanjaro and the Market Square. Those areas, he was responsible for those structures. He owned them, and he has been one of the highest employer of labor in this climb too. Before the Dangotes sprang up, it was Okada, Hinomoto, the hospital, the university, all. In fact, he has said it all. I don't know where to start from, because as a younger person to him, he knows more of him than I do. Yeah. But I pray that God, who has sustained him thus far, will continue to energize him, grant him good health, and make him reap the full benefits of his labor. In fact, I'm glad that at 87, that he's still strong, he can still dance, he can still walk, he can still play around and do a lot that even some of our youth these days cannot even do. So I think God created him on a special day, and
it's 11th of September.
It's wonderfully made.
Yeah, all right,
God
all right.
grant him good health.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. Wishing the summer a happy birthday as it turns 87. It's not that easy to see a man bring out his heart to celebrate, empowering people, employing people, making a dough, making Benin City, making Nigeria, Africa, even the world a better place by contributing his quarter to humanity. It is truly a giant feat. He's definitely an icon. Long may you live, yeah, great health, and more grace to do more exploit. All right, gentlemen. It all started with Rivers State's governor. He mentioned some things and said, look, we generated so and so revenue, Lagos did the same. This percentage was given to us. A state in the northern part of Nigeria generated 2-point-something billion, and the same amount was given to them. He said enough is enough of this inequality. Hence, it gave rise to the VAT roll, that states should be the one to have access. We talk about collecting VAT, that is value-added tax. States should be the ones responsible, since these companies are residents in the state, and the way the federal, so to speak, is sharing is not too cool, because the goods that lays the golden egg is not giving the full benefit of the eggs. The goose is like laying, and it is all about litigations. Some choose to obey, some choose not to obey, but the matter is that this on the ground right now is like the federal and the state government are loggerhead on this particular issue. Let me start off with you, Kadri. What do you feel about Wike's response, Sanwo-Olu's response, and of course other state governors in this particular issue? Is it really worth fighting over? Does the state really have that capacity, the right, the audacity to venture into what the federal government was enjoying?
Well, I wouldn't talk about the law, because I know that there are litigations all over the place. And like they will say, you go sub judice, or what do you call it now? Yeah. You're undermining the courts when you decide that you'll be speaking on what the court is already handling. I know there are a lot of litigation now on those issues, and it's still hanging on air. But I'll just talk about it from the very layman's perspective, without recourse to the legal issues. I acknowledge the legality of the discussion. I also acknowledge that there's already an existing law already on that matter, but whether the law is being challenged now to say, how do we go? Because I'm not sure those things would have been done without a legal framework in an act of financial issues. But I think very clearly that when we were leaving the unitary system, we also have decided to leave unitary system completely and then go into a federalism. Because federalism simply talks about the autonomy of the states. Many things are hanging today that are still hanging within the purview of the federal, even when we are supposed to be talking about a federal system. They are still hanging on from the perspective of a unitary system of government. I give you, for instance, today you realize that here we are, every state is supposed to be creating its funds and then remitting part to the federal government. That is what the federal system is all about. I guess I'm correct,
right.
Lawyer. You know what I'm saying now. So the state is supposed to be paying something to the federal, which would have been a concern. But here is that the federal collects and give the states. That is where I have my challenges. And I hope we are going to restructure and look at our entire system. Before talking about restructuring, I'm not seeing from the perspective of this power play when, of course, some individual, when they lose out of their power play within their own bracket, they come back and fall back to us and instigate us to go and fight for them. And when they finally got the power, the next thing they do, they abandon us in the stream and they make us look foolish. When they are having challenge in their bracket, nobody calls you. No, they call you to come and fight. When they gain it, they leave you alone.
Leave you alone.
If you hear the whistle blow today now, the whistle is blowing. And when they blow the whistle, politics. You're surprised that the man in your back house has a friend in Maiduguri. has a partner in Adamawa, and then they are living together, and everybody is talking. Once they now fall out of that favor, they no longer have a place in the scheme for now to say, okay, wait for your turn next time. The next thing you come back to the village is because I'm an Igbo man, because I'm an Hausa man, because I'm Yoruba man. That's why they are marginalizing us. I ask the question, is that exactly the issue? It's not. It's not the issue. The real issue here is that people are being individualistic. They use us as cannon folders. And Nigerians should begin to wake up and think. The issue of intellectual content to drive a country is not in one part of the country. Every part of this country have intellectuals. What we need to do as Nigerians is to sit back and think, who has the capacity? Who is the one that have a pedigree that can drive our country? And to think about it is now. So that when the election is coming, we are being guided by knowledge, not by sentiment, not by emotions, not by religion, not by tribal definition. It's by somebody's intellectual content to drive a country. That's the issue. If I have somebody who is very sound drive our country, we'll all be happy that somebody is driving our country.
All right.
But not because the person is from my tribe, or because he's my church member, or from my mosque, or from here. No. Other climes in the world do not recognize what we talk about here. These are petty, very petty issues that drive our thoughts. We should be able to drive our thought point of knowledge so we can get a country we'll be happy with. Okay. So for me, the subject matter here is that we are still having a carryover of a unitary system in our current so-called federal system. I think we need to rejig it, to re-examine it, and see how we can make sure we can get a real federal system where the tiers of government have their own responsibility and they have their own source of income. Okay. They can be paying now to federal government an agreed amount from their own collection instead of the reverse.
So what are your feelings on this?
Thank you, Wisin. The VAT issue before now, in 1986, under Decree 7, which was met as sales tax, that is collections from tradings by states and the federal capital territory, was removed or replaced by VAT law of 1993. That is an Act 102 of 1993, and that changed the system. Ordinarily, issues of bordering on trading are state issues. It is the state that ought to collect revenue, just like the income tax. Those residing within your territory, you collect their tax, and whatever is agreed, you remit to the federal. We all agree that this matter is a subject of litigation. So I would not want to go into the rulings by the Rivers State Court or the Court of Appeal. Yeah. But if we want to think as investors and as Nigerians, as individuals, we should realize that you cannot have your own farm. What you sell from your farm, another man
will come and collect.
In the name of trade union or association comes to collect it, or comes to collect your product, sells and give you your own money back. Invariably, it is what he decides he gives you, not what comes out from your farm. And even biblically, that is injustice. I think we don't have, like I've always said, a written constitution by us. It is a constitution imposed on us that we are relying on. And our National Assembly, for one, they are not helping matters. I think all they are interested in is what they will take out. And that is why at times I feel, what is the essence of a National Assembly on a full-time basis? Why not make it a part-time? And why not de-emphasize the monetary aspect, where their remuneration is one of the highest all over the world? I think that creates room for them not to really think of the masses. They seek election from us, we put them there, but once they are there, you cannot get at them to advise them on what to do. If each state are allowed to harness their resources, there will be more development first. Take the issue of security, for example, where the federal government claims to be spending a chunk of our resources. Of what effect have we felt in Edo State? This kidnapping issue of 18, until when the state started organizing the vigilante group. You can see that since the vigilante men are on ground, that the security tension in the state has reduced drastically. If you go along Benin Auchi Road, you see these vigilante men assisting the police. At some point, you see them alone. That has brought down drastically the threat from these kidnappers and robbery. I will advise that both the state and the federal government should come together. It's an issue they should not be washing their dirty linen in public. They should come to terms. Money from VAT are supposed to be the responsibility of the state. Let the state collect their revenue and remit. And two, they should not downplay the local government, because the local government too, though they benefit from the federal sharing, but the local government too are really the source from where this VAT or the revenue comes up.
All right.
So they should be remembered. They should not be forgotten. Their share should even be greater than that of the state. You have 18 local government in Edo State. The 18 local government should have a greater percentage than the state, and the state too should have a greater chunk than the federal government.
All right.
I think in that the issue could be downplayed.
All right. Now, some of the people that this is like a first step in all steps into resource control. How do you view that?
Now, I'll tell you this. Just now in my presentation, I did mention that what we currently have is not a federal system of government in practice. It is still a unitary system of government in practice. And in unitary, the center is the only one that has a power. Others are like appendages, or they're like channel of administration. So, as we talk today, what is important, by the way, is that if you don't stir the waters, you will not see what exactly is inside the water. It's when the water is stirred that you now begin to see that there are all kinds of fish, all kinds of reptiles, whatever it is, they're all bobbing out. So, for me, the state should not celebrate yet, because they are going to now have their own hands being asked questions from the local government. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when we talk, sometimes we think that we forgot the other side. When we are going to reason, it is important, because in practical reasoning, before you begin to take decision, think it through. Don't let emotion guide your judgment. Because I foresee that local government will soon have their own rip-off with the states on this matter. And that is the truth. Because each time we talk about it, you talk about Jack. People have been talking about, what is this Jack about? Why must Jack? Why must Jack? All that, I think, I will stir up after this phase. Now, the state government will simply say, oh, yes, let us fight him. Let us fight him. But they don't know that even in their own house, a fight is waiting for them. And if the council wake up, they're going to ask that this particular consumption tax, what you call VAT, is collected from our own local government. So we must have our hands in it. So you see, it's going to cascade down.
So from the top to
From the
bottom.
top down. So for me, if we want to have our system properly, and we say it's federal, let it be really federal. So that if it's really federal, everybody will know where he belongs. In the US, it's a federal system.
Yeah.
They pay tax to the federal. and everybody collect his own, and you pay. Now, if you don't pay your correct tax to the federal, you have the law will come after you. So these are the kind of things that structurally have to be done. But I think we are going through an evolution. We are evolving, even though at a very snail pace. Because after leaving military government, we are still struggling to come out of that position. Our constitutions are still having some of the remnants. I use the word remnant now, unquote, of the military thought pattern. Because constitutions are written by the people's thought pattern and the people's reasoning concept. It is what the people contemplate that they put in constitution. So for me, it's just the beginning. But I just pray that it's the state government, since they're already fighting federal government now, they should also put in their mind that they will soon have to do with local government. So they should start talking about local government own now before the local government remind them that we are all here too. Look at the story of the JAC. Yeah. People have accused state government that they organize the JAC meeting to collect local government money and spend for themselves and all of that. Those are all stories that are happening. So I think what would have been ideal and morally sound was for the state government to now start thinking of the local government people that are under us, that are working with us. Because according to the law, they are also a government of their own.
Yeah.
Am I correct, a lawyer?
It's a thought here.
You know what I'm saying now? So if you have the federal, have the state, have the local government, because they say what is good for the goose, is good for the ganders. So if the state government is sincere in this is drive, allow that the state government now are going to pursue it. Let them begin to think that we must carry local government and also let them have their own. Because tell me, my brother, if the 18 local government they do, for instance, collect this revenue, and they pay some tax to the federal government, what is state government to the state government? What state government will get is even far more than what the entire local government will get. Because if you pay me small, he pay me small, this one pay me small, we have a pool of money to run. So I am thinking that as we are going on this particular journey, let the state government start thinking now that local government people also have a right, because these particular people live in the local government.
All right. Now, if you take a look at the issue right now, taking it from the local government angle, many of them, though verbally speaking, they ought to be autonomous, but they are not autonomous. You see them having the courage to bark and bite as the state government they are doing to the federal.
Certainly not. Because in the system we all know, local government elections are not conducted by INEC, but by state electoral commissions. And those who come in are determined by the governor. You cannot beat your father. Someone who brought you up.
In this case, who is the father?
The state is the father.
Okay.
And the local government, the son. So my senior, Mr. Kadiri, mentioned Jack. I think that issue has been overgrown now. The local government now have their allocations since July directly from the federal government account. So they don't pass through the state, except that the state still tailor the spending.
What are we saying? What are we saying?
So it's like a round robin, so to speak.
My dear, listen. Now, the man holds the tail, and the thing is working. So what are you talking about?
That's why I say so
the spending is the subject. The spending is the subject.
They are still regulated by the state government. Is that what
on
you're
their
saying?
spending pattern.
Now the local government, since July, they've been enjoying full salaries. No more percentage before we disengage.
Yes.
Because as I speak, half of my salaries are still pending in Okada, in Ovia Notice local government. Even after retiring over 6 months ago.
You are still waiting.
I'm still waiting for my arrears of house salaries to be paid. That being that, I think the local government councils, if truly they are autonomous, ought not to be controlled to that extent that what they generate, they cannot spend it without approvals from the state. And when I joined the service as a local government staff in 1986, I remember local government councils were tarring roads. They were building maternities, building primary schools, doing a lot of things, competing with the state government. But at the latter 2 decades of my being in the council, I discovered that all this function especially from 1999.
Yeah.
I discovered that these functions, the local government were enshrined under the constitution, have eroded. Even grading these days, you hardly find local government grading any street. It used to be a period when councils were busy, contractors would be rushing in to get one bid or the other to do roads before the rains come setting. Now, in Benin, if not for the intervention of the state and the NDDC, most of the roads can be assessed because local government can no longer even pay their staff salary before now, not to talk of embarking on projects. So the issue at stake is that we need a full-blown autonomy.
But
only when the local
government, they are autonomous.
In paper.
No, I'm going to go somewhere.
In paper.
Let him,
not in practice. Until that is done, just like the state can boldly challenge the federal government, no local government can survive the heat.
Okay.
So we need a full-blown autonomy so that they be on their. We have, for example, a legislative arm in the local government that ought to legislate for the local government administration. But the state houses of assembly still dishes out orders, make their laws to govern them. Outside that, I tell you that the autonomy we talk of, as we speak, the local government does not pay itself.
All right.
We have accounting staff in the local government council. What are they doing? It is the state that still pays local government workers, the ICT of the state. That pays pensioner.
Okay.
That is an aberration of the law.
All right.
It is the local government pensions board that is saddled with responsibility of paying pensioners, and they should revert back to status quo.
All right.
Why the redundant staff in the finance and treasury department of the various local governments should be allowed to pay their workers salary. The state can come in to audit their accounts.
All right.
That is clear separation of power.
Okay, from state acting from federal, local government acting from state, but saying that that of the local government is like, you know, insurmountable mountain, because somewhere along the line they are like in a bed together, but the states do have the upper hand in this relationship.
Now, let me tell you this. You see, history has since taught us that when you think it's not possible, that's when it will happen. Kwame Nkrumah, God bless his soul, when he was overthrown, he was on the air, coming from somewhere in Europe or the West, when he was told that he'd been overthrown. And Kwame Nkrumah said it's not possible. Who would do that? It's not possible. As the plane was advancing home, they told him, don't come home. Oh. You have been overthrown. That is a serious matter. Eventually, he ended up in Guinea-Bissau, where he died in 1972 or thereabout. Now, to him, nobody would have ever thought that anybody would sit down and say, Kwame Nkrumah overthrown. Who is the person? Osajefo overthrown? That was a man who believed that Ghana was his own estate. Yes, we call him Pan-Africanist. So, for anybody to contemplate it was like a dream. But it became reality. So let nobody think that the councils will not come up one day. The shocker might come. So it is safer to begin to preempt them.
How are they going to come? Because,
hold on a minute.
People be thinking about this. How is it possible?
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, my dear. You see, so long as they went through an election, whether you say the governor put him there or not, because many people, that's what they say. But I know that elections are always conducted in local government. I don't know how they do, but the elections are conducted. Am I correct? There were elections. People go to poll to vote. Is it not true?
It is.
So whether you say it is
conducted by the state.
No, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. The federal government conducts state election, but it did not decide for states what happens to the state government. No, let's be frank with ourselves. The INEC is this state owned? Is it from spirit world? Is it not federal government that own INEC? Am I correct? Yes. It's an agency of the federal government. They call him umpire. So the idea of saying state, today the state government who are now flying the kites were elected by a body set up by federal government. And somebody must steady water one day. From one, it was cascade. It happened in the state now when Wike stirred the waters. Yeah. And now it has cascaded. And everybody is now talking about it. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So here, let nobody be in illusion that local governments have been hamstrung. They will never. It's a lie. A day will come, a young man will not give a hoot to who brought him. He will drive the process and hit the nail. And that will become the beginning of a new phase. Revolutions don't come when you plan them. It's not what you think. Revolutions come at their own time. Like Malcolm X will tell us, an idea whose time has come, no man can stop it. Stopping it is like a moving against the train. And the train will crush you. So for me, let the state government start thinking now of the local governments. As they are talking about this VAT thing, let us also be thinking of what are we going to do with the local government. If federal government, if they succeed, they say, okay, you collect VAT in your state. They should also think that local governments
want to collect that.
Let them collect and let them give them. The way they want to give federal government, let them also give them, so that everybody will be in sync. That would be the best thing to do, and that would be wisdom to drive the system, and that would mean that you are preempting and you are feeling for others, not just about me, and me.
Okay. If you take a look at it right now, it's like the state governments, they are in the forefront when you talk about the battle over VAT.
Yes.
Now, some are saying these are politically motivated row. Now, this thing has been on for quite a long time. This is not the first year, second year. It's been like that, the way it has always been. Why now? Is it not 2023 that is the focus of all this agitation? That is, a party thing?
I think to some extent, I'll tell you that we are all political animals. I think it is when you feel pains that you come out and make it known. How can a state who remits 2 billion be giving it 2 billion back, and another state who collects and remits over 18 billion or so, be giving a patry 4 billion? You want them to keep quiet. I don't think it's political in all contexts. It is fighting for your rights. Just you and I, we go out, we do our menial labor, and we are paid whatever rates or whatever job we do, the portion. You are giving 10 naira for one plot you cleared, and I cleared 2 plots. I'm giving the same I'm giving 6,000 instead of giving 10 naira, even above times 2 of your own, that is 20 naira. I'm now giving 6 naira. How do you think I'll feel? It should be commensurate with your labor. A state that generates a chunk of revenue for the federal should have more impact of development, infrastructural development, even from the federal. There should be more federal presence in that state than a state that generated less. Look at the federal structures. For example, how many Southerners are in a position of power at the federal level? Talk of defense, talk of army, talk of NNPC, talk of the vital power place positions in the country. They are all headed by the Northerners, whereas revenue comes from the South. You want the Southerners to keep quiet? I mean, even the Bible, from what I have deduced, heaven help those who help themselves. When you sit idle, no man will fight your cause. What Wike and the Lagos governor have done are the right steps in the right direction. Except that people will view it, okay, you were bringing in politics. Sanwo-Olu is APC man.
Sanwo-Olu.
Sanwo-Olu is a APC man. The same party with Buhari. So, do we bring in politics here? If you say because Wike is a PDP man, no. The chunk of revenue coming into federation account comes from Lagos. And the man, to a great extent, is seen as one who has been able to develop Lagos a lot. So he needs more money to work for his people. People voted him in. He made promises to them. And if he had an idea, he had a focus where he's going to get his revenue from.
Sure.
If he's been sized of that creation, what do you want him to do?
Okay.
He has to cry out.
Right.
So I think we should divorce politics from this issue of VAT.
Okay. All right. Now, I wanted to react to the answer that he gave, talking about divorcing politics from the issue of VAT. And, of course, if this should fall through, don't you think that many states in the federation will run bankrupt?
Now, Wilson, you see, it is when you are not challenged that your head does not work well to get results. It is in challenge you get results. Even if when you were in secondary school, if you're not challenged by exams are coming, you won't read hard. It is challenge that makes you get results. So for me, I don't think that will be an issue. It will just mean that the state government will need to look inward and see how they can change their narrative. And they know how to block the leakages that are there in terms of tax collection. A lot of some of these state governments and the local governments, they undermine some of these things, and some of them, they don't work up to the way they should work. In other climate of the world, where their only source of income is through tax, they don't play with it. Even in the US, tax is something you cannot evade. You know that. They will track you down. They will do everything to track you down because that's a source of income. So for me, I don't think we need to belabor the issue as to, oh, some states will bankrupt. No. Right now, the states are going to bankrupt because they have over-dependent on the federal government allocation. Some just sit down and wait. When this month is ended, they get their allocation, they share. So nothing challenged their intellect or to do invention. You know, you do a lot of research work to see how do we beef up our revenue. This same thing I want to say to the local government. Council should stop lamentation. Because we do a lot of lamentation in council. Everybody is lamenting. You give your revenue collection to young men and women who make the money for themselves. And a lot of people are talking. So we need to re-examine all of this. Because a time will come, the central piece we are talking about now in terms of oil will go to the down. All the countries that use our oil for their own survival are also thinking of alternative way to avoid the oil. They're thinking of it. Sail oil, all of them are thinking of something else. Some are looking at electrical vehicles that will no longer need fuel. So you just go to the place, charge your vehicle, and you can drive. You get to the next point, you charge your vehicle, you can drive. So you no longer need fuel. So what now happens? What now happens? So we should all start thinking outside this. Let us go ahead of this oil business and say, what now happens to our country by the time this happens? Because somebody was talking about the next 50 years or 30 years, this whole story of oil business will all be crashing. So what do we do? So I think the time for us to think is now. Those in the local government should begin to do a research. Those in the state, do a research. Federal, do a research. How do we mop up all we're supposed to collect? There are a lot of revenue not collected down the streets. A lot of them. And the ones that are collected don't get to the purse of the people who owns it. Some of them get to the private purses. And these people use this money for themselves. People celebrate all kinds of wealth. From where? Revenue. They come and queue into the local government. They queue behind the local government. Council, give me revenue. I want to be revenue collector. And what are we talking about? And this council are lamenting that they don't have money. And there's so much money that is going to private purse. So how do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile that? Is that something you're going to reconcile? So let us sit down and be realistic. There's no longer tea party. It's no longer a free time. These times are no longer free times. They are time for you to do some mental work. Work for why you were elected by the people. Discover how. Lagos today is Lagos is one of the highest earner in terms of IGR in the country. There's no state that is close to Lagos, where they get about 20 to 30 billion naira every month. How many states can get that kind of money? There's none. So we should also think inward. And that state have a lot of service orientation. That's why they are making that kind of money. Because they also try to beef up and see how they can cover up those gaps. So we, in other part of the country, should also be thinking of how do we cover out those gaps, so that those leakages will be closed, and then we'll make the kind of money that can run our state.
All right.
Many years ago, you remember that in this country, we had regions. Regions were self-financing. They were not waiting for federal pulse to bring their money for them. And these regions built a lot of houses. Cocoa House is built from cocoa money. Palm House is from palm money. And so on and so forth, and several other parts of the country. So what has happened to us? We have gone lazy. We no longer think. All we're thinking that money is coming from Abuja. Sit down and wait. When it comes, let's share. Everybody go home again. Till the next month, let's share. No, that must change now. Because the way we are going, if we do not think deeply, we are going to run into a problem. No state can go bankrupt if those states wake up and begin to plan ahead.
All right. Before I call it a wrap on this segment, don't forget I want to take a look at also the president visits to the east, went to Imo State precisely, and I've just been talking about that, both the good side, the bad side, the hope for the east and the rest of them. What do you think should be done in this particular regards about VAT, briefly?
Well, the visit of the president, before I will talk on that, I want to harp on what my senior Mr. Kadiri said about states not going bankrupt. Yeah. In the north, you have some states where you have gold. There are no states in this country that you don't have mineral resources. Yeah. It's because of our dependence on oil that all other states have jettisoned sources of revenue generation, waiting for monthly allocation. So if the southern states particularly are allowed to collect their VAT and remit a percentage to the federal, when the other states in the northern part see their dwindling revenue from federation account, they will equally wake up, buckle up and harness their own resources and make money too from such a revenue deposit. So that is for that. Then for the Imo visit.
Hold on now. We'll get to that just because we want to go for a break. You guys should take a breather right now. When we return from the break, we'll take a look at the Imo visit. Well, we've heard them. All states should go start thinking on how to generate revenue. Whether it falls true or not, you have to learn how to be independent to really, absorb the shock that may be occasioned by this VAT row. We'll be right back after this break. Do not go anywhere.